Hello, and welcome to Losers Queue. I'm your host, Jesse McCullough. Here on Losers Queue, we sit down with players, captains, and staff from within RMU Esports and talk with them about their esports journeys, as well as all things competitive gaming. On today's episode, I am joined by CJ Buckeye, also known as Caustic, who is director here at RMU for our esports program. We had a conversation about what it means to be a director for a collegiate esports program, the origins of RMU Esports as a whole, and where he sees collegiate esports going in the future. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with CJ, and I hope you do as well. With that, let's get right into our conversation with CJ Buckeye. Hi, CJ.
Hi, Jesse.
It's been a while.
A week. It's been a week.
We didn't record last Tuesday, did we? No, it was last Wednesday.
It was last Wednesday. So less than a week.
Yeah.
We've somehow made a grave error in less than a week on the brand new podcast.
Hey, so growing pains. Sometimes things like these happen.
I mean, I guess if you want to call it growing pains, it should have been an audio test. I think that's what that sounds like. It should have
Probably.
been. We should have done a test.
Definitely.
Which I hope we've done tests
We
today.
have done tests.
Okay. So
we're recording over there. We're all tested this week.
Okay. Well, we are in a better location now.
Oh,
I mean,
for sure.
It's far less compact, and hopefully, if another lamp breaks while I'm gone, like it did last time.
I was gonna say if another lamp breaks, like we gotta figure something else out.
I just can't do this anymore.
Nope. So the first thing I wanted to ask about was just the origins of the Caustic Raptor gamer tag.
So I had gamer tags in the past. My first one, I was 8, maybe 7 when I made it. So, I mean, we're talking circa 2004, 2005. I don't remember what it was. All I know it was hideous, so I changed it. I joined a clan when I was, it was Modern Warfare 2. So
Okay.
OG MW2. I joined a clan at the ripe age of 8. And they let me play. So I joined this clan. That was my first intro to esports.
What'd you specialize in this clan? What were you cracked at in Modern Warfare 2?
I could not do. I wasn't a quick scoper.
I was gonna say, were you a trick shotter?
No,
If you were a trick shotter, that changes my entire plan for this
No,
video.
No, I was not a trick shotter. I was just good at the game, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, I was, as the kids say, goated on the sticks. I was goated on the sticks. It was like a bear claw. That was their thing. They were a bear claw, and they used the what are the letters? It's got to be Greek or something with the little marks above the O's.
Oh, the umlauts.
Yeah. So it was that, but we made it look like a bear claw.
Oh, that's
so
sick.
it was lowercase O, capital, lowercase, and it looked like a bear claw. And I think at that point I was called Prodigy. So
Okay.
I went from that to Caustic Raptor. And the jump was because I left that clan. Back then you had to pay money to change your tag. So it was like I left the clan and it was like a $15 investment for me to change my tag again. So I changed it to Caustic Raptor, and that happened. The way I got that name is I Googled cool unused sounding words.
Yeah.
And I just picked 2 off the list. One was Caustic, the other one was Velociraptor, but I was like, well, everyone knows what that is, so I just took off Velosa and I kept Raptor. And then I did the early 2000s thing where I put X's on either side,
Underscores.
Capitalized random things,
Yep.
an underscore. And I kept Caustic Raptor until 2021 when I changed it to just Caustic. When I started doing this more of a job, it was just hard to give people Caustic Raptor and saying make sure you capitalize these letters. So I just changed it to Caustic, all lowercase. Has nothing to do with Apex. It has absolutely nothing to do with Apex.
I was gonna say, I feel like that gets confused every once in a while. When you talk to recruits, is that brought up? It's like, oh, is your Caustic
No,
Apex
I think it might have been brought up once. It gets brought up more amongst peers and players. Once you get more comfortable, then you can be because it's almost a little bit of a rib if you want to use wrestling talk.
Yeah.
It's kind of more of a rib because it sounds like, oh well, you picked your name off of Apex. That's kind of lame. It was pre-Apex when I got Caustic Raptor. It was before Battle Royales in general. There was a time when Battle Royales didn't exist. And that was, that's how I got Caustic Raptor. I still have jerseys that say Caustic Raptor. I was Caustic Raptor through my entire playing career. So I kind of look at transitioning to Caustic as more of I'm no longer like a competitor anymore. Now I'm like the coach administrator.
Yeah.
So shortened it, made it a little bit more professional, and now here we are.
Gotcha. So what did it mean for you to be the controller czar for RMU Esports?
Consoles are.
Oh, console czar.
Consoles are. Yeah, when we co-founded the program back in 2016, me and a bunch of Shaler graduates, Tyler Coates, Ryan Conti, Norman Riffner, Austin Petrick. When we co-founded the program, we all took when you found a club, when you find a club at RMU, you have to assign people like a board of director role.
Yeah.
So Tyler was the president. He is if there's anyone who can call themselves the founder, it's probably Tyler. I always say co-founder. Tyler was president. I think Austin was vice president. They were roommates together, so that's partially why it happened. Norman was the secretary. Norman was treasurer. Ryan was secretary. And for me, my role on the books, I think, was also a secretary. But in the constitution that we had, it was console czar because they all played PC, and the thought was my job would be to get the console players engaged. It didn't really happen because there weren't a lot of console players. Everyone that joined esports was interested in, well, at the time it wasn't even esports. It was the Colonial Overwatch Club.
It was just Overwatch.
It was just Overwatch. Yeah, it was just Overwatch. No one was playing on console. Everyone was playing PC. If you were playing competitive, you were playing on PC. I didn't have the luxury of owning a PC. I didn't own a gaming PC until I was a junior in college. I was on console the whole time, and I still have consoles today. It's not like I've fully transitioned to PC for all shooters, but not for like sports games, RPGs. I still like the controller aspect of that. Yeah. It's just a little bit more comfortable. But consoles is what I was. I mean, that was my technical title. I didn't really do a whole lot when it came to like console stuff. I did a lot of board things, and I was involved in any of the big decisions that we had. But until my junior year, I really didn't do a whole lot with the club. When my junior year rolled around, is when we got that big investment. We moved up to the NAC, and then I was like, okay, well, I actually have things that I can do because I learned Twitch. I was always interested in play-by-play broadcasting. I was always interested in sports media. I worked for Century my freshman year. So I was always interested in that stuff. So I learned how to do it for esports, and that's what I did. I was just their Twitch production person. I did that for 2 years. I graduated, came back as an assistant coach, and that was my job, was to run the Twitch stuff. And then once I transitioned to head coach, we didn't have anyone that could run Twitch. So from the time that I became head coach until this semester, we have never had anyone who could run Twitch. So we had that dead zone. Yeah. And now we have Lance. So we had the dead zone of it was me. Now there was nobody. It was because I was busy running everything else, and I had help, but I was busy with everything else. And now we can get back to actually streaming and get back to what we were meant to do.
So you're saying Lance is the next step in RMU Esports?
Lance is technically my successor.
Yeah, I couldn't find the word. I was thinking of predecessor, but no, successor is the right word. Mm-hmm. Out of all the people to be your successor, Lance Axton.
I don't pride myself on my hiring standards.
What does that say about me?
I think it says all that it needs. I don't know if we need to get any deeper in that.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I see how it is.
I mean, this is the second take that we've had to do for this.
Fair point. So you spoke on the fact that it was originally the Colonial Overwatch Club, and it's transitioned from that to being RMU Esports just as a club, and then club sport. And there's been this long ramp up. What is it taken at each step for RMU Esports to not only become a thing but keep growing?
Interesting question. You didn't ask that the first time.
I know.
He's changed his ways.
It's making you think now.
Okay, so we were the Colonial Overwatch Club until midway through 2019. Even after we moved up to the NAC, we were still the Colonial Overwatch Club. We did not formally become RMU Esports until mid to late 2019. It was definitely my junior year, so it had to be, I guess technically it would be early 2019. When you graduate and you think back to college, you're going to, instead of separating fall 2023 and spring 2024, you're going to assign it to years. Yeah. So when I say 2019, early or late 2019, I'm referring to 18-19 year. Yeah. That was the that was the big year for us. That school year, 18-19. That's when we started to get university backing. And in 2019, we formally changed our name to RMU Esports because we weren't just Overwatch.
Yeah.
But we ran with the Colonial Overwatch Club for a while, even when we had different teams in there. I mean, we've had leagues since 2017. We've had Rocket League since 2017, maybe even 2016. I don't remember when we exactly started that.
So the Colonial Overwatch Club had more than Overwatch?
Yeah.
That's so
It was
interesting.
Overwatch was the first game that we ever had.
Yeah.
And it was founded around Overwatch. Overwatch 1 was the catalyst to what we have now. People listening to this podcast, the only reason that it's here is because of Overwatch 1. That's where this all started. Now, I'm sure someone would have came along and made something. Like there was a card game club, there was a Smash club, but they were all like tangential. RMU Esports went from the Colonial Overwatch Club to RMU Esports in 2018 or 2019, somewhere in there. And when that name changed, we had already received our funding and our backing. The way that we moved to the NAC, we didn't ask for it. We didn't make we didn't have a proposal. We didn't make any approaches to RMU for it. They just gave it to us.
Really?
So they built the NAC in like 2017, 2018. Whenever I started here, up there, it was just a field. It was just a leveled field. Was
there a soccer field there at that point?
Yeah, so there was a soccer field, there was a basketball court, and there were 2 deck hockey courts that doubled as tennis courts.
Okay.
That's what was up there. And then there was this little pavilion, which if you actually go and if you look up the North Athletic Complex on maps, if you go back, you can actually see in street view what that place looked like. They leveled it and built the NAC. And in there, they had a room in the top that they were going to use for athletics offices. And I don't know who pitched it. I think it was Dr. Sunoka, because he talks about it a lot, where they pitched building an esports space up there, a small one.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant to be a long-term solution, but a small one, and they would hire a staff member to run it, and that we would be the club that would be receiving it, because they knew about us. We were doing a lot of on-campus recruitment. We were one of the biggest student-run clubs at the time. We had some need to get to an actual spot, because at the time we were all playing remote. The only on-campus stuff that we had was LAN parties that we ran in Salem Hall once a semester, which were always big events because it was the only time that we could all get together and play something.
Yeah.
But when we moved up there, I don't know who exactly pitched it. We left that spring thinking that next year was just going to be the same. And halfway through the summer, we were told, hey, you guys are getting a facility with PCs in it, and you're also going to get a head coach that's going to be hired part-time. And that was Richard Zapp. And we didn't know anything. We were not clued in on anything. As the student board, we found out first, and then we told everyone else. But the way that we actually moved up there was they just put everything up there. We had no say on the equipment. We had no say on who was hired. We had no say on what we wanted to do. It very quickly could have went south.
Yeah.
But thankfully, the people who were in charge of procurement, it's actually a good friend of mine, Mike Evans, who still works in IT. He was in the club at the time, and he worked for IT and had a close working relationship with James Shermonte, who runs, he's not the IT director, but he's higher up over there, and he's in charge of the, not in charge of procurement because that's technically the CIO, but Jimmy has a lot of say in it. And they went to Mike, and Mike helped pick out those Omen PCs, the ones that we still have down there. It wasn't Mike's final decision, but Mike had a lot of say in it. So thankfully, the IT stuff was taken care of well, and when we showed up, everything was there. We had problems, as you do, especially with our firewall. Thankfully, we got all that figured out. And then Zapp was just the perfect coach for us at the time. Hats off to Armand for actually doing his research before jumping into this. Armand didn't know anything about esports before coming into this. And as the director of campus recreation, I wouldn't expect him to know anything about it.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of research, and now he teaches the class on campus for it. But they hired Zapp, who had a lot of experience in his own right and still does. He's he does broadcasting for Smash events.
He still does?
Yeah.
Where's that at? Or where does he work at?
He works, I think he still works at a Butler Community College. He might be doing something else, but he's not in esports anymore.
Okay.
He does. That's still his side gig.
Okay.
He still does some broadcasting for various Smash events, and he's fairly successful from what I've been told.
Yeah, I wanted to know if I recognized any of the events that he worked on or anything like that.
He's worked on some pretty high level events. You might, if I can pull up his. Yeah, I can send him a DM. He's worked on some pretty big ones. I know that there's usually several thousand people that are involved. So I know that he does. That's why he was hired.
Yeah.
Was because he had all that experience in card games and Smash.
Yeah.
Which ironically we didn't support either of them until at the earliest this year when we introduced Smash. Yeah. We did not run Smash at all. So Zap was the perfect fit for us. He was good for recruitment. He went out and found players for us. But the best thing that he did is he really just let the students cook. Like he just let the student directors and like the student board, that's what I was looking for, really just go. So we had 1 year where we were student board. It was one semester where we were student board with Zap. And then we began our transition out because we were all seniors. And we were like, okay, well, we've got to get going here soon. So we created our contingency plan for us to leave and the new student board to come in. And we ran a student board until I became head coach. Gotcha. So the transition out of the Colonial Overwatch Club, because we are no longer a club anymore, we're a club sport, we don't have a student board. Ironically, we have the same number of student workers as we did student board members. That was not planned, that's just how it happened. But that was the transition, and it took several years to get to where we're at now. I mean, this is year 7 or 8 that I've been involved in this, so that's as old as the program is, 7 or 8 years now. And it took a very long time. We did not have a lot of money. RMU backed us randomly out of the blue. We weren't expecting it. And the next step was really, okay, well, let's keep building. We got up from, I think we hit 40 active players in like 2019, and then this semester our Desrec forms are at 85.
I was gonna say we're getting up there.
Yeah, so we've doubled in size, and that is players. That is people actively engaged, playing games for us, competing. That is not, oh well, you're just in the club. No, this is like, these are active competitors. These are people who are working at getting better or working for us.
Yeah, and like if you look at the Discord, we probably have, I don't know how many,
I think it's
200 or so in there.
It's a lot. I don't know how much it is. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah.
But there's a significant amount. I mean, it's a lot of alumni support too.
Yeah. Fascinating. Have you had enough of me yet?
Again, my hiring strategies.
All right. I know I asked this last time, and I think it's a question that I sort of get confused about, because obviously you have an open door policy down within the esports facility that we have, and like your job means a lot of different things. So what does being RMU esports director look like? Just not only from a day-to-day basis, but what your job is to do.
Well, the open door policy is something that I wanted to have from the get-go, because I think it's important for the players to know that they can talk to me at any point in time. And with that comes the giant caveat of that opens me up to 24/7 stuff, which is what I have to deal with. But the open door policy down in the esports facility is essentially, if my door is open and you just want to talk, go ahead. That means that I'm not in the middle of doing something that requires my full attention. But if my door is shut, you need to respect that and essentially say like, okay, well, if his door is shut, then he's doing something where he needs to fully concentrate on something, or he's having a confidential conversation with either a captain, a player, or what have you. So that's what the open door policy is all about. What it takes to be an esports director is you have to have a really unique skill set. Not that I'm trying to make myself, be this pompous dude where it's, oh, well, no one could do my job. Because there's a lot of people out there who could do my job. But you need to be someone who understands the video games that you're supporting. So we have 11 to 12 different video games, and I understand them all at a relatively decent level. I mean, you've seen my Valorant growth just from the beginning of the year, where I didn't know a ton about the video game, and I got moved to full time, and now it's like, okay, well, this is now my job. I need to learn.
You get paid to play Valorant.
Not that I play Valorant on a day.
Well, yeah, if only you would play with me.
A lot of people think that that's what I do all day is just play video games, and I don't. I don't play it a ton. Like if a student says, hey, do you want to play a game or two? I don't care. Sure. If I'm not doing anything, yeah. But I'm not going to jump into a comp game because I might have to leave that game and go do something. Because believe it or not, this is my job. This is what pays my bills. This is what pays my mortgage. So I need to make sure that I'm doing this job to the best of my ability. But that unique skill set that I'm talking about is you need to have a working knowledge of all of the video games you support. It doesn't have to be a very deep knowledge, because I'm not going to be able to sit here and talk to you about strats on Breeze. That's not what I'm about. That's what Billy's for. That's what Coach Bill's for. I know all of the games at a working level where I feel like you could have the confidence to walk into my office and talk to me about insert player's performance on insert agent on certain map, and you would know that I know what you're talking about and how you're talking about it. And that is something that I learned for some of the games this year. It's not something that I know all the time. I can't sit there and play all of the games that we have. I'm not good at them all. I'm good at some of them. I'm not good at all of them. I wouldn't describe myself as a starting roster player on any of our teams anymore. In my past, probably, but I also just don't dedicate the time to grinding the game anymore. It's just not something I want to do. I get all of the competitive, what's the word I'm looking for? Not apathy. I get all of the competitive kind of juices out of me watching you guys compete. I am totally satiated watching you guys win and play your games. I do not have to do it myself. I don't have that competitive feeling that some other people do. It's important that our players have that.
Yeah.
Me, I'm completely satiated watching you guys put in the work and get results. And
that's kind of the difference between like a director and a coach, not only from like the strategic point of view, but like you sort of, it's not to say you shouldn't be, but like you sort of can't be as invested, because if you're like blood pumping at every single game that RMU Esports is playing, you might have a heart attack.
I would have cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be quite poor. I do like all of the games that we play. I enjoy watching them all. That's the one thing that I do like about esports is the production aspect, which makes a lot of sense given everything that I've done for my tenure here and everything that I do for the high schools around us that we help out. And that's the aspect of the part that I like. So when I'm watching you guys compete, so for instance, championship week, you guys all grinded to inevitably win, but you guys had that one game or that one series, and that was all you had. I had that 3 times.
Yeah.
So if I put the same amount of stress and anxiety into all 3 games, I would be a walking dumpster fire. I can't do that. Yeah. I have to draw emotional lines, which is why I don't play those games outside of RMU Esports, because I just can't. I don't have the emotional bandwidth to do it. If I'm going to be invested in watching the game, then that has to be the one thing that I'm doing. And I will look at everything strategically and tactically, because that's how my brain works. I do have the coach mentality of, okay, well, if we change this thing, what's it going to do? And if we make this change, how's that going to impact the game? Those are the tactical things that I'm looking at. And I can do that with Overwatch. I can do that with Rocket League. I can honestly do it with Valorant at this point in time, where I can bring ideas to the table. I don't know how they're always going to plan out. I don't know if they're going to hit. I don't know how they're going to land. But it's important that I can at least be a 3rd or 4th person who's looking at the game, who understands the game, and can at least bring those opinions to the table. You don't
need to be outright providing like nuances and strategy, but you sort of need to be able to provide an opinion of some sort if any team decides to come to you. Like if Bill and I had a disagreement about where the Val team was going, and we were inconsolable. We needed someone to step in and say, you're right or you're right. Like, you need to be able to sort of make those decisions. And so, like, the knowledge that you have is strictly administrative. Like, you need to be able to have that to make decisions.
And that's one misconception that I think high school coaches get wrong. And the high school coach, the high school esports coach, is just a teacher, and we have to remember that. But I think that is the biggest barrier to entry, is thinking that you have to know everything about that video game when you don't. I lean on my captains and players still for certain knowledge on the games. I do not know everything. I know a lot, but I don't know everything. I can't talk about specific tactical situations. I don't have the knowledge. I know I have a working knowledge of all of the individuals in the game. So, I mean, we could go through agent lists for Valorant, and I will know what they all do at a surface level, but I couldn't sit there and tell you the mechanics that go into each individual character and go from there. So at the high school level, really just getting the teams together, getting the program together, and letting your students, and I know that's scary because they're usually fairly immature because they're only 15,
will be
16.
teenagers, yeah.
Yeah. You have to let them teach you. And that's still what I'm doing today. I mean, this is my only job. And I still am learning from my players on a daily basis. There are games that you guys bring to me that I've never heard of. Pal World is a recent one.
You know, it's actually really funny. Last night, before the match, I wanted to get together with the team and VOD review for a little bit. That way we have our heads on our shoulders going into the match that we're going to play. Even though it's just an activation game, we're just looking.
Preseason.
Yeah, we were looking legit. The reason we picked Breeze is because we hadn't played it yet. And so we could.
That's what activations are for.
Yeah, so you could try it to
Your record does not matter until the regular season.
Yeah. And so I get in there, and I think I was in the Discord at right about 7:30, and then Coach Bill pops into the Discord, starts streaming. And I go, what is this? He goes, what? Enter the stream. He's playing Pal World. He plays Pal World for a half hour.
I saw him streaming to nobody in the Valorant Blue team channel. I saw it.
He was waiting for me.
I saw it, and I went. I hovered over it because on Discord you can hover over it and it'll show you it. And I saw Pal World. I was like, it's chalked. We're not winning this game tonight. It's chalked. He's playing Pal World. It's over.
Oh my goodness. Well, that may not be. You may not feel very much pride in something like that, but obviously, as a director, you've had the pleasure. Obviously, 3 teams have won titles in the last whatever it is month.
Honestly, like 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah, but however, it's been very recent.
Yeah.
And obviously, you've seen continuous growth with the facility, with players, with the media aspect now, with the student workers that we have coming on. Where do you get fulfillment within your job? Not only the largest parts, but what do you look at and say, we or I did a good job?
Well, it's never an I. I don't take any.
You can pat yourself on the back one time.
I don't. I don't do it because it's not just me.
Yeah.
I think that we, as a collective, as a staff, do a very good job of what we do. And you're just getting introduced to all of the things that we're doing in the background that the players don't see. And the fact that the players aren't seeing it means that we are doing our jobs.
Yeah.
My biggest piece of fulfillment, where I get the fulfillment from, is when I'm introduced to young men and women and they say, I want to play esports, and they have the confidence to say that. And the issue is the high school scene is still in its infancy and it is still growing. So that is where we focus all of our time and effort. A lot of the effort and time that me, Johnny, and Travis can dedicate to esports, a lot of it is at the high school level and building those connections up. We have built a very strong foundation of high school networks in the area. Tomorrow, I am leaving the state of Pennsylvania to go to the great state of West Virginia to do a site visit at a high school that no one in that area knows about or is serving. And they aren't even in Western PA. They are in West Virginia. And the only reason that we know about them is because that's where Travis is from, West Virginia. I want to say Weirton, but I don't actually know. It's probably some smaller town outside of Weirton. And building those high school connections, building the high school programs, even if they don't come to RMU, my fulfillment comes in a student who is underserved in the K-12 institution or even going into college, getting the opportunities that they deserve and that they've worked for, because those are the students that are at risk. And in the first time that we recorded this, I explained at risk, and I'm going to do it again because I think it's important, especially for the uninformed listening to this. When I say at risk, it is a K-12 moniker for a student who is not engaged in school activities outside of the 1st to 9th period, or however many periods are in the school day for insert school. It could be 8, it could be 10, whatever. A student who is not engaged in some activity. They aren't in band, they aren't in choir, they aren't in the art club, they aren't playing intramurals, they aren't on an athletics team. Those are the players that are at risk. Those are the students that are at risk. And they're deemed at risk because you don't have any feelers out to them apart from the 45 or so minutes that you're in a class with a teacher. So they're deemed at risk because you just don't have those connections. Those are the students that are more likely to be esports players. And that is our elevator pitch at high schools that are thinking about esports, because those are the KPIs that move the needle. KPIs, key performance indicators, metrics. The KPIs that move the needle are, what are my at-risk students percentage? Who are the people inside of that at-risk percentage? And how do we serve that at-risk percentage? If you think about the stereotypical esports player, they're not doing athletics. They might be in a club, they might be in an art club, they might be in a music club, they might be doing something related to music or art. They are usually creative, and they're usually introverted.
Yeah.
Those 4 things are, if we're being fully transparent and honest, those 4 things, when related to a person in a stereotypical atmosphere, puts that person at risk, not only in the K-12 system, but also in mental health.
Yeah.
We have seen that every single year with a cohort of freshman students that come in. Those are things that we have to figure out. And those are the students that need served. And esports can do that. It doesn't reach everybody, but it reaches a good amount of those at-risk percentage population students. My fulfillment comes from seeing them open up and thrive. For instance, one of our players, who I'm not going to name, who played on Valorant White last semester, really opened up. And you could see their progression throughout. And it's not even just that individual. There's been multiple individuals who come in, they're shy, usually pretty timid, might even have anxiety attacks being in rooms with people. Like, that's the kind of issues that esports players are dealing with. And as the person at the top, or even the people at the top, we have to handle those situations. And seeing those individuals grow and change and become who they really are, that's the fulfillment. It's not the competition. The competition's great. I'm super happy that we won 3 championships. I'm very proud of getting those championships, and I'm super excited to see those trophies come in. And I cannot wait for Media Day when they come in. Don't get me wrong. I get fulfillment from that. My biggest fulfillment is on the person and their personal growth. It's not even in the game. Game growth is going to happen regardless. It's natural growth. The second you get into a team atmosphere, it's going to happen. If you give any amount of effort, you're going to climb. That's known. It is the personal growth and serving those students that don't get the attention that they deserve, especially for being how skilled they are at the video game that they're in.
Mm-hmm. That was a really poignant answer. It's
better than the first time.
My heart grew 3 sizes today.
That's genuinely it, because I get asked that question a lot. It is, why do you do what you do? And it's not because I'm super into video games. Because, I am. Don't get me wrong. I go home and I'm playing video games. I didn't really get to play anything yesterday because Valorant was doing activations, and now it gets busy. Activations are my busiest time. Once we get into the regular season, we're cool, because we already know where everyone's at. Okay, we start to make our projections. Everyone gets into a flow state. We're fine.
Yep.
Activations is when everyone's like, all right, well, let's grind the gears and like let's start moving in the direction that we need to get in.
You have to like pull the ripcord to turn the machine on, essentially.
Yeah, this is where I'm putting in the majority of my hours.
Yep.
I mean, yesterday I worked 12 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put it on the books because like I wasn't here for 12 hours. But you're putting in a lot of time.
Call. Yeah, you were on call.
I was on call. I was in calls. Like
Yeah.
I was doing things outside, and everyone knows that you can send me a DM, and I'm more than likely going to answer it. I do ego some people, just because it's like at some point I have to stop. And for the players that do listen to this, if I don't answer your DM at 9:30 p.m., it is not a personal slight. I need to stop working at some point in time, because if I don't, I'm going to burn out in March, and then the rest of the season is screwed.
Yep.
So I need to keep in between the ears intact, and if I can work 11 to 12 hours a day mentally and still be okay, that's what I'm going to do. Some days I can't do that. Some days I'm working 7. Some days I'm working 6. Some days I walk in at 11 o'clock and I'm supposed to be here at 9, and I'm like, I'm going to leave at 3. And that's just what I have to do, because there's some days where I'm working a lot, some days where I'm not working a lot, and it's about balancing it, and it doesn't always mean that it's a set, you're working 9 to 5. That's not how it works in esports. I mean, your games don't start until 6. You guys started last night at 9 p.m.
Yep.
Like, it's not a set schedule that's normal.
If we're going to talk about normal, I know we touched a little bit about what you believe the purpose of esports to be. I think one of the things I always think about is sort of the legitimacy of esports, if that makes sense, and legitimizing it, is that the term? Legitimizing it for people who don't quite understand it. Like, let's say our players' parents, and especially our players' grandparents. Like, you think about, like, traditional sports systems, I think a lot of people publicly, like, within the public, a lot of people understand those. But, what do you think it's got to take for esports to be seen in the same vein, or do you think esports should be seen in the same vein as traditional sports?
Should it be seen in the same vein as traditional sports? It's competition. However, there are some traditional sports that aren't looked at in the same light as, say, football or baseball. There's the big 4 in the U.S., football, basketball, baseball, hockey. Like, those are your big 4.
Yep.
Soccer isn't that big, but it's the biggest global sport.
Yeah.
So
you want to talk about big sports, cricket up there.
Rugby.
Yep.
These are big sports that aren't seen as very popular in the U.S. And that's kind of where esports is at, because esports does have a decent following. I mean, there's still a good amount of people that watch even just collegiate Rocket League, the finals, the World Championships had over 60,000 viewers. That's not chump change. That's not ESPN numbers by any means.
No.
And I don't see esports ever getting to the height that like the NFL is at, because that's just untouchable.
Yeah.
Could they start to push hockey numbers? Potentially, with the right investments. But right now, the way that the pro scene is run, just business-wise, it's sink or swim, it's feast or famine, and if you don't win multiple series in a row, you're just done. I mean, even just yesterday, Riot let go like 7% of their staff. So you look at that as someone who's in college or in high school and you want a career in esports, and you say, where's my future? It's the way that esports is set up, where people peak early and fall off early. People are peaking at 16, 17 years old and becoming the best players in the world. One of the best Rocket League players in the world is like 17 years old, maybe 18. I don't know how old Zen is at this point. I know he's really young. These are the players that come in and they're like, oh my God, that's the LeBron James of Rocket League, Zen. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some people going, no, it's Daniel, whatever. Does not matter. The point is, one of the best players in a particular esports title is like 16 or 17 years old. You don't have the traditional progression of you play high school, you go to college, you play college, you go to pro. That's not how it works. It's you play high school, you go to pro, you go to college, and you get your degree and move on. That's how esports is. And the esports orgs currently, and I don't pretend to know anything really about the pro scene because I've never been in it and I don't intend to ever be in it. Unless, of course, someone comes with a bag. I don't expect that to happen. But Team Liquid, you have my contact information.
We're looking at you.
Yeah, we're looking at you, Team Liquid. if you are one of the bigger orgs like Team Liquid, FaZe, 100 Thieves, TSM, Cloud9, those big esports orgs, they have a lot of success and pedigree to them because they've been doing this for a while. They did it when esports wasn't ridiculously expensive like it is now.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to field an esports roster, I mean, it's like signing NIL contracts in NCAA football.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And you aren't getting the same return. And especially with the way that some of these professional esports leagues are building their programs, you're starting to see, okay, well, we're not getting as much back if we win, so we can't pay our players as much. Well, now these players can't be full-time in esports. What do? You're not seeing that same return on investment. That's why orgs are going for content creators, is to get their brand out so they can sell merch, so they can support themselves. The biggest esports orgs out there, why are they as big as they are? The merch they sell. Mm-hmm. Team Liquid just did they did multiple crossovers. Star Wars was recent. They did Naruto for some reason.
Yeah. C9 just did one with One Piece.
Yeah.
Like TSM had one with MHA. FaZe is probably the best example of this out of all
That's
of them.
all that they've done is branding. Yeah. They were branding before they were even serious competition. I mean, FaZe Banks, FaZe, I don't know most of the FaZe
FaZe Banks is the only one.
FaZe Banks is the only one.
FaZe Rain, sure.
Yeah. But those, where did they get, they all did brand stuff. They built their brand, they built the FaZe brand, and now you go into a high school or a middle school, you're bound to see, they've got Mr. Beast levels of visibility on that growing audience. And now, you've got high schoolers and middle schoolers who are like, oh, well, I want to be FaZe. I want to be on FaZe. My brother, who knows nothing about esports, knows who FaZe is.
Yep.
That's just the recognition that they have. FaZe will never die if they do their thing, if they handle it right.
Yeah.
If they handle it right.
Keyword.
But you have some of these smaller orgs that are jumping into the thing and spending thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars to field a roster. You can only do that so many times before you're out of money. So you're seeing pro change to, okay, well, how can we make this a financially feasible model? And everyone says, esports is not profitable. Esports is not profitable if you don't run it properly. And that's why collegiate is so stable. And that's why high school is so stable. Because you don't have to spend that much money to field a team. Yes, it's a very high cost of entry. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say that it's not a high cost of entry. But so is hockey. So is football. So is baseball. Yeah, you can say, oh, well, football's easy to get in because you just need pads and a ball. No, you need a field. You need a good field. You need a scoreboard. You need stands. You need referees. You need coaches. You need to do all of these things, but it's small costs spread over multiple different areas. Biggest thing for esports is you need PCs.
Yeah.
It could cost you about $2,500 a piece, $2,000 a piece, if they're really good. Mm-hmm. You can get some for like $1,500 that'll work for a few years. $2,000, that's a lot. That's a lot for a college or a high school to try and manage. It's really, you're going to get a lump sum, and that might be the only lump sum you get, and you need to guarantee your next lump sum in 4 years when you need to replace everything. Even us, we're still using the Omens from 2019. We have new Corsair PCs, but we still have those Omens. I'm not getting rid of them. They still work. Yeah. Why would I degrade, that's not the word I wanted to use for. Why would I remove PCs from our active pool of PCs if they still work just to have the Corsair ones? Just use the Corsair ones for competition, use the Omens for practice. That's been our model, and it works. And it makes it so that we have 22 PCs now. There's no need. All of the programs that you'll see a lot of big investments into, I'm not picking on Waynesburg, but I'm just saying Waynesburg's still the most recent one in local. They got a huge buy-in from, it was either an alumni or they got some grant money or something. They got a big chunk of money and they renovated a location on campus and they bought I think it was 20 Alienware PCs or 25 Alienware PCs. They technically have more PCs than us and they are technically better PCs. I'm not going to say that they're not. Specs are specs. They might be, our Corsairs might be a little better. It does not matter. That giant purchase up front, it's not like Waynesburg set aside the money in their budget and we're like, okay, well next year we're going to spend a lot of money on esports. It's always an alumni donating the money. Some investor is going to spend the money or you're going to get grant money. Something's going to do that. You don't get that in pro. Yeah. You can't get that in pro.
Everything has to be from.
It has to be a private investor. Yeah. So right now we're seeing some people start to recognize it and we're seeing some of the big name teams leave NA because of just how popular esports is. EU, Asia, Korea, even LATAM is fairly popular. I still think I think NA is above LATAM, but EU and Korea and
I was
Asia.
gonna say, like, China is one of the biggest esport markets
And
out
Korea,
there.
yeah. China, Korea, those are your big two. I think Taiwan and Singapore.
I
and
mean, like,
then
Japan has a
EU.
large competition, but that's less direct, like, esport, like team esports and much more fighting games.
Yeah.
Like, they have a huge
Mortal Kombat.
combat. Like, you talk about, like, they call them, I forget what they call them. There's a specific brand of fighters that is essentially like played on the street or something
Yeah.
like that. And they pump those out pretty consistently, like Melty Blood. There are a couple of those. And like NA has a pretty big fighting game scene as well.
Not at that level.
But yeah, not to that extent. But
Well, because you're looking at, so in the Asian market, you have Korea and China are your big one too. I mean, if you look at just League of Legends, okay? One of the biggest esports titles in the world, one of the most played games of all time. It is in the top 5 in every ranking out there. It just is, metrics-wise, it is one of the most popular games of all time. It has its own Korean Pro League. It is just Korea. That's it. LCK. That's it. League Championship Series in Korea. I'm almost certain. It is just Korea. NA is all of NA, and we don't have this. We're not even close to the same viewers as in Korea. I mean, you have NA viewers who are interested in watching really high-level League of Legends. Korea is going to win every time. Even at Worlds, an LCK team goes, and it's just they win.
yeah, like what NA hopes for in League Worlds is a quarterfinals appearance.
We're happy to get there.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be. That's just going to have to be how it is. And
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. If in Korea they just have more time to dedicate to the game, if the lobbies are just better and therefore.
One thing I've heard argued is just sort of like a cultural thing, where like Japan and America are both very individualistic cultures.
Yeah.
And to where like that's why you see like European and Asian teams compete so well when it comes to team games, whereas team games where it's single player and stuff like that, fighting games is probably the best example when it's just mano a mano. Like that's where you see the U.S. and Japan do the very best at.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I fully believe like all of that, because I mean NA has still seen success in like shooter games that are team based.
Yeah, I mean with CS in particular.
I was gonna say Valorant actually.
Valorant too.
Valorant is the most recent example. CS, you had Team Liquid, but outside of that, it's still been largely European, even like sort of like I want to say like Baltic, like specifically that area,
Yeah.
East Asia, East European, even somewhat in that Latin America region. You see a lot of success out of there. Like NA in a global esports space has definitely sort of shrunken down.
It's an interesting case study.
Yeah.
If anyone out there at a university that has an esports degree, which I'm not going to go there and touch that topic. Not a huge fan of esports degrees, but if you're at a university that has an esports degree and you get a research project, it might be worth a case study.
Yeah.
I might even do it myself. I'm just kind of curious because Korea, it's interesting to see how certain regions perform vastly better than others at certain games. I feel like with League, it is a bunch of different problems that all kind of culminated into one, where now all of a sudden Korea is your dominant region. And not only is it a dominant region just in general, but also just the lobbies are better, so you're playing against better players, and therefore you keep going up and up and up. And I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
And it just kind of culminated into what we have now, where NA is struggling, not only as a pro scene in general for League of Legends, but also to compete on the world stage. I mean, it's almost like a laughing stock type deal.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not too familiar with LCS. I'm not too familiar with League that much in terms of like the competitive scene. So if I said something wrong, I apologize. But that's just, it's interesting. I don't know. I feel like a case study is warranted there, and I'm sure someone's already doing it. But I'm curious to see what the outcomes is.
Yeah. We're gonna get to the fun stuff now.
Oh joy!
This
has been fun. This has been the fun stuff.
But now we're getting to the fun stuff. Just a couple of things for your consideration, okay? The first of which is, when will RMU host their own in-person LAN tournament?
So we have talked about this in the past. It almost happened. It actually would have been this weekend if everything would have went to plan.
The R6 Charity Bash?
The R6 Charity Bash. We had a land component attached to it. The colleges that we polled had said, it's not in the cards because it's too soon to the beginning of the semester. So unfortunately, we couldn't make it happen. But the one thing that we did see from this past semester is the Business of Esports class that we have on campus. The one that I alluded to earlier that's taught by Armand. That class did their final project as an on-site like LAN tournament for Smash. And it was like you donate something to, I think it was the Pittsburgh Food Bank. I don't quite remember. Actually, Richard Zapp was there. He was the broadcaster.
Oh, yeah?
He was the broadcaster. We've tested it out down there. A LAN actually works in the new basement area. So I am figuring out how we can make that happen. I would expect to see a LAN down there in the fall. I think the spring is just too tight of a timeline.
Yeah.
We do want to do something in the fall, whether it be high school or college. Next year is a target for that.
Solid. Another one. I talked about it as a jersey retirement before, but when do you think the RMU Wall of Fame is going up? The RMU Esports Wall of Fame.
Again, fall.
Fall?
So that's something that's actually that's happening. That is confirmed.
That's guaranteed.
Happening. Yeah. So what we have right now, how it's going to look yet, we're not sure. It was actually going to be up for the spring. Like it was going to be up over break. We were going to have it put up, but we want to get the walls painted first.
Yeah.
So we wanted to. It's going to go on the when you walk in the front door to be on the right wall. It's going to be over there where the cell booster is.
And to piggyback off of this, when is RMU Esports getting championship rings made?
That's not happening. Here's the thing. So some esports programs do championship rings. I think it's just to kind of fall in line with what athletics does.
Mm-hmm.
I could be persuaded.
Even if
However,
they're ring pops.
It could be ring pops. My thought process is that is going to be, one, a lot of money.
True.
Two, we have not budgeted for that. We haven't even begun that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It is something I could bring up. I don't know if RMU has a mystery pot of money where they dedicate to that kind of stuff. If they do, sure, I'll spend RMU's money. But if it's going to come out of our budget, we need to plan for it next semester and into next year's fiscal year so that we can try to make that a reality. Right now, we haven't even talked about it. I know that it's been brought up as like a meme. Right after, this is hysterical because you brought this up. Right after we won the championships, we posted it on Twitter, right? I got emails from championship ring companies who I've never heard of.
Really?
Multiple.
That's so sick. Why didn't you answer them?
Because of the way that they started their email.
How'd they start them?
So the only way that they could have got my email is by going to our Twitter, and it's in the bio, or the Instagram, it's in our bio, or going to the website and pulling it manually. Mm-hmm. Or you use a web scraper.
Oh.
And a web scraper isn't always properly coordinated, is it? Because they're probably going to be looking for the term coach, not esports director.
Ooh.
And you would normally refer to a coach as, hello, coach. For me, it would be Coach Buckeye, right? Yeah. I was referred to in these emails as Coach Director, Coach Esports Director CJ Buckeye, or my favorite, Director Coach Director. I will not be using any of those individuals that sent me those emails.
Labeling you as Director Coach Director in the title of this episode.
If you are listening to this as someone who owns and operates a championship ring company, if you go back through your sent history and you sent us an email and your title or your email had something like that on there, we will not be using you in the future. Okay. Send us a legitimate email, a personalized email, and I will consider it then. Okay. Just appalling behavior.
my goodness. Oh, that was the best thing I've heard in a really long time.
I have the receipts.
That's so good. This is something that I had penciled in the first time we recorded, but I didn't ask you. If you had to completely restart your esports career and like go back and like you, with all the knowledge you have now of how big games have gotten, and if you were able to plan, like, what game would you want to go, like, just devote all your time into going pro in and just like grind the heck out of?
That's an interesting one. So you're saying as like a player?
Yeah. Like if you went back to when you first came here and you started the Colonial Blank Club.
So back in 2016, if I was to dedicate all of my time into a
game to go pro in, now that you've seen the heights that esports can get to.
Probably Rocket League.
You think Rocket League?
Yeah, so Rocket League came out right around that time. It was like 2014, 2015, I think, somewhere in there. It was still in its infancy. If I would have dedicated all of my time to it, not saying that I would be very good, but if I really dedicated all of my time to it, I probably could have gone pro a little bit. Because, I mean, not dedicating really any time to it. Not dedicating any time to it, and I'm Champ 1, Diamond 3, whatever you want to call it, somewhere in there. And that's not really dedicating any time to it. If I really put my time into it, I mean, even I was talking to Rad Moves, the captain for our main roster. He has a montage that he built in 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. If he would, he's even said if he would have put like the time into it back then. Early Rocket League is nothing like you see today.
Yeah.
If I would have been able to even do basic aerials consistently and learn how to do double touches, I would have been easily one of the best players in the world, because back then people didn't really, there was no aerial play. Kronovi is like the first, I hope I pronounced his name right, I think it's Kronovi, was like the first big Rocket League player. Yeah. And his main thing was his aerial play and air dribbling. That was it. He didn't do double touches. He didn't hit psychos.
It's like the Wilt Chamberlain of Rocket League. He was just taller.
Yeah, that's really what it was. I mean, he was just better in the air than everyone else. That's what Rocket League was like back then. If I knew what it would get to today, I would immediately just start grinding free play and just get really good at it, and then see where life takes me.
See, I don't know if I would do Rocket League, basically because I haven't had the expertise. Like, I haven't played Rocket League. That's sort of just not my thing. I can't say Valorant because...
Well, you could just play CS and Overwatch and then...
Yeah. I was thinking League. If you get good at League really early...
Here's the thing. League was still big back then.
True.
So, like, in 2016, I mean, I would have had... I mean, Johnny, for instance, pretty much has played League just about every day for his entire life.
And we are so sorry for him.
Yeah. And, like, he's good at the video game. Don't get me wrong. He's very good at the video game. But, I mean, even dedicating that amount of time, he didn't go pro.
Yeah.
Not that he wants to. And I'm sure he doesn't try as much as he used to. But, like, back when he played for us as a competitor, I mean, we were getting slammed by some teams. So I don't think 2016 is enough time to dedicate to League to get really good at it. I think Rocket League fits perfectly in that time frame. Yeah. So I'm going with Rocket League.
Either that or PUBG.
I played PUBG. I mean, that was my first battle royale. I've got maybe 1,000 hours in PUBG.
No, I changed my answer. I want it to be Fortnite. Because I would go in and I'd play the Save the World mode, which they had, and then when they added battle royale, I just get sick at that.
It's just joking.
I'd be Ninja.
You'd be Ninja.
I'd replace him.
I don't know if Cyber has the same kind of roll off the tongue capability as Ninja. But
well, that's just because Ninja's like a word.
All right, next question. Acting as if cyber isn't a word.
It's like kind of part of a word. The last thing I have us doing is we're gonna go through. We're gonna rate different jerseys this time.
Okay.
But we're gonna go through. We're gonna rate these jerseys on a scale from 1 to 10.
Okay.
All right. So the first one I have up for you is these FaZe Murakami jerseys.
Those are hideous.
You hate that?
Those are hideous.
What's wrong with that?
That's a 2. Those are hideous.
I love those. They're so. They also have a variant that's all black and it's just white outline of all the different flower designs.
No.
Too much?
I don't. Yeah, there's too much going on. I don't like it. It doesn't scream esports to me. What it screams is middle school home ec project gone horribly wrong.
Dang.
Yeah, I don't like those. 2. I'd almost say 1, but I don't know what's
I'd
coming
give
up.
that an 8 easily.
I hate that.
Oh, well, the next one, I'm not sure how you're going to feel about this one either. This is the 100 Thieves collared jersey.
So those were like the first esports jerseys I ever really looked at.
Yeah.
Like as like someone who was knowledgeable enough on the subject. So the one thing, and this is going to go to soccer for a moment. The one thing that I hate about soccer jerseys is the collars. I hate collared jerseys. Stop. And it's the same with esports.
Yeah.
Stop.
But I think this one pulls it off, though.
It does because it's long sleeve.
Yes. That's
Because
the
it looks more of a quarter zip than it does anything else, even though it's technically a polo. I just touched the mic. It's more of a polo. But at the same time, it's not as bad as it could be, but I'm not saying it's good either. I'm going to give it a 5. It's very inoffensive.
Yeah, they also have a variant of these that's the championship whites, where the white and the black are inverted. And I don't know. This is one of the first reasons I said, like, dang, I was really considering buying this jersey.
So it's inoffensive. It's clean. It probably deserves higher than a 5.
But the collar just sets it down?
Yeah.
If it was no collar, you would rate it higher?
Yeah.
Fair. The next up, I think that this team has some of the best jerseys in the business, and that's FlyQuest. The FlyQuest Sakura jersey.
I do like Okay, so I like FlyQuest jerseys. I hate their logo.
Really? You don't like
It's
the
so
logo?
boring.
Oh, come on. You're killing me.
It's so boring. I like those. I think they're clean. They do look a little bit too t-shirty to me.
True. It's like that mesh, like athletic material.
Yeah, it almost looks. It looks more like I just wear that.
Yeah.
Like that's just something. That's
just a nice
t-shirt.
shirt.
Yeah, that's just a t-shirt to me. It doesn't scream jersey. I like it. I'm gonna give it a 7.
7?
Yeah.
That's all. I would probably give that probably a 9. I really like that jersey.
If it was okay, if we're rating it as an esports jersey, 7. If we're rating it as a merch
piece
line,
of apparel,
it's a 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's a piece of apparel, it's a 9. If it's a jersey, it's a 7. I don't like this. I don't know where this is going.
I went to some deep places for some of these jerseys.
Okay.
So this is a CDL team.
Okay.
One of the CDL team's jerseys. These are the London Royal Ravens jerseys.
That's just a t-shirt.
It's just a t-shirt.
It's just a t-shirt.
It's so ugly.
Um,
It has the worst colors.
breaking it down, dope logo.
You think so?
Dope logo. It reminds me of the German Eagles. The good German Eagles, not the bad German Eagles. It reminds me of the German Eagles. I like the London across the face. It reminds me of the London Spitfires.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is probably where they got their...
I don't know if this was because Spitfire was owned by C9. I don't think this is owned by C9.
well, they bought out the Spitfires. Because
Okay.
they were an Overwatch team. An Owl team, if you will.
Yeah.
Those are the only benefits. Why do we have blue digital camo? Why do we have tiger stripe? There's no point for that. The random red stripe on the left sleeve makes no sense. Royal Ravens on the back at the bottom as a tramp stamp is not good. It's not good. This is not an OK jersey. This is not good. It's better than the FaZe jersey.
The worst part, I think, to me, is that they chose the term Royal Ravens. Like it's not even like London Royal. Like that's not the place.
It's the London
It's
Royal
the London
Ravens.
Royal. They moved. They're the Carolina Royal Ravens.
So they kept, okay.
They kept the Royal Ravens part.
So if it wasn't just a Cotton Hanes T-shirt with just some graphics like printed on it, it would be better. As a piece of apparel, a 3.
Maybe.
As a jersey,
That's like a 1. Even a 0.
yeah, it's a 1.
It's a 1.
It's a 1.
And then how many more do I have? I have 2 more.
Okay,
I have the classic, the C9 jersey.
love those.
It's one of the best jerseys.
Love, it's 10.
Yeah.
It's iconic. That's an iconic C9 jersey.
Yeah.
I love that the logo is center stage, wrapping around the jersey. I love when jerseys do that.
Yeah. I was gonna say
Maybe some foreshadowing there. Maybe some foreshadowing.
I think that C9 has some of the best jerseys
Easily.
in the business.
Easily.
But they also have one of the best logos.
Mm-hmm.
Like Like
Yeah.
that original logo of
It's beautiful.
of the cloud
It's
out of
perfect.
the nines, like
Yep.
that is.
It's perfect.
I don't think the only logo that even like gets close to me, maybe like TSM, but like even then, it doesn't. It's not as cohesive.
G2. I love
the G2
G2's
logo is
logos.
pretty good.
I love G2's logo. TSM's okay. It's too big for me.
Yeah,
The Cloud9 logo I think is a little bit more sleek, whereas the TSM one feels a little bulky.
yeah.
But for that jersey in particular, it's one of my favorite esports jerseys. That's 10.
So good.
Easy. That's
so
an easy
good.
10.
And then the last one is, it's not a formal jersey that any player has worn in an event,
Okay.
but it is the Optic hockey jerseys.
I like Optic.
You do?
I do.
I think
I like their colors.
I was gonna say they have a really solid branding to them.
It's Optic Texas. They're in Texas. It's very Dallas Stars of them,
Yeah.
which I wish they would have leaned into more when they were doing the hockey jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have made sense. I think a collab there would have been awesome.
Because they've worked with the Rangers.
Yeah. However, this particular jersey, I'm partial to hockey jerseys.
I that's why I picked it.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I don't think. I think the difference is that this is not something that people. This is strictly apparel. It's a jersey that
Yeah.
is apparel. It's not a competitive jersey.
It's a great piece of apparel.
Yeah.
It
is an
It
awful
is
jersey.
an awful esports jersey.
Yeah, it is just like I would wear this like to class, not wear this for competition.
It is still better than the FaZe jersey.
It really
is
is.
still better than the London Royal Ravens
It
jersey.
really is.
I'm going to give it a 4.
4. Okay. I think I can respect that.
4.
I
Maybe a
think I can
3.5.
respect that. Well,
A soft 4, if you will.
well, CJ, thank you for taking time
Again.
to come out to come out and talk with me. I think we had a very. I'm glad that we were able to make this discussion.
I think this was better than the first one.
For sure. I'm glad this is the one that people are seeing.